Hello and welcome to the channel. It's Shane C back again, and this tutorial we are going to break down how to humanize drums and getting them away from the robotic feeling in Ableton using some Ableton stock plugins and also the groove pool that's already installed inside Ableton. You can do this manually, but we'll show you how to do it. So I've pretty much started and I've got a little groove going here which I'll run through really quickly. So in this we just have basics, which is kick, hats and a bass line. This will actually go through, and what we can do is we can actually add in some percussion, and we'll add in some percussion elements, and we can show the use of swing and then one or two Ableton stock plugins. So the kick basically is not very long, a little bit of EQ just to tighten it up. We got some hats. We have an open 909. We have a closed 909 that I have shortened just to get the click, which will help separate and add to the open, which gives it the click and that gives it the main body. Then I've got a shuffle in here. Shuffle has a small bit of delay just to add to it. Then I have a high egg shaker, and then I also have a white noise shaker that I will go through in a future tutorial on how to make it. It just fills out the high end. And then I just have a bass line, which is just a sub. It's just playing a basic pretty much pattern, and all together we got so that's where we are of right now. And then what we're going to do is we're going to add in percussion. We do label. I have a bit of OCD when it comes to making sure tracks are labeled and organized. So with this one we're just going to look for some bongo hits. We're just going to look for some bongo hits, and what we're going to do is we're going to actually add these on in MIDI. Some people like to use drum racks. They like to use drum racks when adding in percussion. Usually with my projects I like to individually have them on MIDI tracks. It's just because I have a lot more control. So that sounds nice. So what we'll do is we'll add two MIDI tracks. We'll add in row 1 and row 2. And then we are going to make a 2-beat MIDI clap, 2-bar MIDI claps. So now we've got them all. One thing I like to do is we're using a 2-bar loop. So loop the race. I set it to a 16th grid, and then I click on 1. And then when I come in, click on the time bar, double click. So I've got 16. And then what I like to do is I can close this, actually open this, and I use this as the grid marker. So now I have it that I pretty much have a 16th grid, give or take, in and around. The first one is close that I can see where the 4, and that's the 16th, and then the 16th. So if you can see this is a 16th, so I can see the bars simultaneously. Then we're just gonna feel the groove. Dum dum dum. So we probably go. Let's see what that sounds like over the 2 bars, and we'll go to the second one. So we try here. So with that one, I do like that pattern. As we can see, it's here. I do like that pattern, and then I might stick one in just before that. But row 1. So what happened was I copied in the same sound. So now we've got this melodic, this. So really quickly, what I like to do is, as I'm moving along, I always like to try and EQ to keep it. It just basically keeps frequencies out of the way, and you're not doing that super crazy, as in to tweak the sounds. You're just clearing up space that you're actually hearing, and you're not muddying up your mix by doing it. I know it's counterintuitive with trying to keep up with the creative flow, but you get into it that you can just get it, and it's nice. Okay, so we have bongo 1, bongo 2, bongo 3. So then what we do is we go back into our MIDI region. I make sure velocity is 35 on all. Sometimes if your Ableton is set up, this will automatically be on 35. I have the simpler naturally saved, so it goes to 0, so I get to input it myself all the time. I just find it's easier doing it this way. So we have the groove, and as you can hear with me doing that, they have jumped in volume. So what I'll do is I'll adjust volumes just to kind of blend them into the mix. So what we add to add some more flavor and to kind of work around this is panning. It just helps stereo spread. It gets things a little bit out of each other's way, and then what that actually does is it just helps with the groove. So then what we do is we've pretty much got our drums. The only thing we're missing is a clap, but for this track I would go with no clap until I go a little bit further in the mix to see what kind of clap I'll need with frequency ranges. So what we do is we'll solo kick and drums. So this is pretty much our drums. And as you can tell from listening to them drums, there's a shaker, and the shaker, this shuffle, and this shaker is where you're getting most of the groove from right now. That's where you're getting most of the groove from right now. But we're going to actually add to that groove. And there's two ways to do this. Obviously, we're going to go into the groove pool and we're going to pick which groove we want. But then there's two ways to actually implement the groove onto it. You can do it manually, or you can do it with the groove pool. So for me, I like the groove 16th. If you don't like this one and you want to try a different one, grooves here. And this is all the grooves that have been added. So we're going to use groove Logic 16th 64. So if I get it for you, Logic 16th, and we're looking for 64. So this is the groove before it's actually implemented to a sound. And you can hear it's not directly on the B. So that sounds like 51 is not a lot of grooves, but it sounds like it's a lot on a metronome. Whereas 64, it's a little bit more swung. So there's ways to do this. You can either drag and drop your groove. So now that is actually, it's at the turning from grey to white. So that's telling us now it's actually on a MIDI file. Or you can click on a MIDI file and you can click groove here and drop down and pick whatever groove you'd like. You can also highlight multiple MIDI tracks, drop down and click on. Now it's on all three at the same time. We'll do the same for our percussion, which is here. So now that they're giving us the groove is on all of our MIDI tracks that we have open. I'm actually going to get rid of these, make a little bit more space. So now we have all our MIDI. It's all open. So now when we play it, we should still hear the exact same that we just did, no change. We've heard no change, and the reason why is because our timing is at 0 and our velocity is at 0. We have changed all of our to 35. We just make sure that the hats are all on 35. When it is in one-shot mode, velocity is on the front of, it's on basically the default view. When you have it in classic mode, it is on the back side, which is under controls, which is located here. So we make sure all our hats are on 35. So as you can see, this one, velocity is not on the front, controls, velocity is on the back side. And this one, velocity is already set up, because this one was actually built through Operator. Another tutorial I will go through on how to build the shaker from scratch. So now what we're going to do is we're going to gradually increase this until we like this swing that we have. And as you can hear, I exaggerated and I went to 31%. And if you listen to the bongos and the shaker, you can actually hear it swinging. Listen to the kick drum on the beat and listen to how much the shakers and the percussion moves off. Now that we're up to the 60%, you can hear it's gone extreme. So like that for me would be way too much, because you're nearly into a triplet grid. It's nearly moving the 16th into a triplet, so it's really swinging. When you add more elements, that will actually be really swung. So usually for me, practice and with this swing, 20 to 30% is usually more than enough to give you a nice swing, but when you add more elements in, it doesn't get too crazy. So what we'll do is we turn it to 30. And now we'll add in the bass line. We'll add in the bass line. And what we'll do is we'll put the groove on the bass line, because you'll hear it might be too much with the bass line added, that we actually have to rein it back a small bit. And for this instance, 30% worked quite well. You're getting the groove. So what we'll do is we'll play 2 bars with the groove, and then I'll take the groove out and we listen to 2 bars without the groove. And then we can actually hear the main difference of 2 with, 2 without. So what we'll do is we'll actually start without, and we'll listen to 4 bars without, and then we listen to 4 bars with, and then we'll be able to hear the main difference of it swinging. As you can hear, the second half, you got a bit more swing, and you got a little bit more rhythm, and then you could actually feel it starting to make your body move without you even thinking, because the percussion is kind of moving a small bit from left to right, and it's that little swing. So for people that don't actually understand swing, I'm gonna use this shaker as an example just to explain it a little bit more in detail. So we know we have the swing, and we know we have it on 30%. So what swing is actually doing is every second note, which is the 16th, which is every second 16th, it's actually shifting the second note like this. And the value here, 64, is how much it's actually being shifted. And the timing percentage is how much we're actually shifting it by. There is a button here, this arrow. This will commit the groove, and it basically does an imprint of it. So if you were to add in synths, vocals, and you find the grooves a little bit too much, and you went to pull this percentage back, if you have committed, you cannot go back. So for me, best practice is I never use commit. And I never use commit until I have the track finished and I really want to commit it. But to be fair, I never usually use commit, because I've always then got control of add a little bit more swing, take a little bit more out. You can actually go to and from no matter where you are in the track, in the production. So you might get it to the mix and master, you might master it, you might bounce it out, you might listen to it, and then you might be a week or 2 later and you're like, oh my god, it's too swung, I need to rein it back. You can just come in and pull that percentage down. If you have commit, then you have to go in and remember which one you've committed the swing to, and then you have to replay it and redo it. It just takes a lot more effort. So for me, I would just leave it at 30%. I'll leave my percentage at where it is and never change it back. So if I hit commit, and I'll show you, you will see them notes, they'll actually move. So as you can see, that's how much that 16th has moved off the grid. It's moved. That's how much it's moved. That's how much it's moved. And as you can see, it's only a little bit, but that little bit across all of them, and they're all together, will give you that extra little bit of swing. But again, you could go more. You could go 60%, but as you can see now, it's gone back to 0. So if I add 60% or 67%, it's going to add 67% from this starting point. So we'll undo, and now we are back. So we've got our back here. Let's jump it up to 60, 67 is where we had. We'll press commit, and you can see it's jumped a little bit more. So with it jumping a little bit more, the swing is going to be a little bit more, and I'll let you hear. You can hear that's really swung. but again, for me, 30% in this case is perfect. There is more what you can do in, and this will bring it, and it gives your drums even more of humanization and feel and groove, and that is using the velocity MIDI effect that's inside of Ableton. And this is a stock plugin, and it makes your drums, it takes your drums, like if you just use your standard drums, you're good. Getting that extra 5% out of your drums is adding that swing. Swing will give you 5 to 10% extra. Adding the velocity changes with this plugin gives it another 10%, and it's only going to make the finished product a little bit better. So in the velocity, we use the preset add some random, and then what we do is I add it to the shuffle. We add it to the shuffle. We then click into our MIDI, and we make sure our MIDI is all at 100. You can go to 127, but I think 100 is the sweet spot for the output, and it's the highest level and highest volume the hat will reach. So then what I do is I take, this is the bottom, so this is how quiet it'll be. I usually bring it to about 80, 85. We use drive 0.2, and this is just pushing, and it's just making sure that it's floating. And then random, we take anything between 20 and 30, and that's how much randomization the volume will move. So what we'll do is we'll solo the shuffle, and we'll see, and you'll hear the difference of it moving. It's only slight in volume, but you will hear the difference. What I'll do is I'll turn off the delay, and if you watch the meters down here, this grid, you will actually see the volume change. It's only slight, but what I'll do is I'll exaggerate it so you can actually see how much it changes in volume. So as you can see, it just changes it in volume, and what that does is it just moves, and it just humanizes it a little bit, because if you actually have a traditional drummer playing the drums, they never hit the same drum twice at the same velocity every time. So if they're playing a hi-hat, the velocity is always changing. So this just adds a little bit of character to it and just helps it move it to the next level. So what we'll do is we'll actually copy this setting. So we press Alt on a Windows, Option on a Mac, and what that does is it just drags it to, it just creates a copy and duplicates a copy onto whatever track you drag it on. So now if I listen to this shaker, that shaker should be the same. So with this, what we'll do is we'll kind of bump this up. Now you can hear it, it's pulsing a little bit and it's moving. So then we have the shaker. We'll add our hats back in. Now what we'll do is we'll add the same, but we'll add it to the bongos. And we'll add it to percussion. And we'll go to the first one, we'll go to 100, as we said. We'll go 80. We're going to go 0.30, and we're going to leave it at 30. So that's what we're going to do for all three of them. And then we'll see, and then what we can do is we can adjust the taste. I copied the wrong one, my apologies. So we can take these two out. So now we have all bongos. You can hear now with the swing and this, they sound nearly out of time. But if I pull that timing down, you'll hear they'll actually get straight again. You can hear that they're very straight. So we hit 30 and you can hear they starting to swing. Now we'll add the open hat. We'll add our hats and shakers. So with the percussion, what I do is I'll probably pull it down to 20s. And I'll pull this one down to 0.20. And this one down to 20. And what that'll do is it'll just make it groove. It just won't be so jumpy in the volume because it's the percussion. And that's how you humanize your drums, using the groove pool and the Ableton velocity MIDI effect, pretty much stock. I hope this helped everybody, and we will bring future productions to help you get your drums and your tracks to the next level. Like, subscribe and share.